Hey guys, it's Adam from Lucipixel and welcome back. Now firstly, thank you very much for your understanding. I had a little sick girl last week and I have a sick girl, another sick girl here today. And I didn't get a chance to record any videos last week, but you guys have been so amazingly understanding about that and amazingly supportive about that. So thank you again. I honestly feel like you are the best community, the best art community online, and I will stand by that till the day I die. You guys are really amazing. Now with that said, on my videos lately, I've gotten a lot of comments. You guys have really been sharing your feedback with me a lot lately. And I want to, again, reiterate the fact that I read all of them. I can't physically, I don't have the physical time or ability to reply to all of them. But I want you to know the importance that your messages have to me. And very often you guys will reach out to me with very heartfelt, very personal things, you know, very personal experiences and feelings, and with such incredible warmth and gratitude for what I'm sharing with you. And I want you to know I've heard you, and I want you to know that I've read your messages. If I haven't gotten back to you yet, it's just because I haven't had the time. It's just, you know, there's 24 hours in a day, and I spend a portion of that sleeping and working. But I have read it, and I want you to know how much I deeply care for you for doing that. I think it's incredible of you to go out of your way to share such warmth and support, and to go out of your way to say what you're doing, Adam, matters. What else could I possibly ever wish for? So thank you for that. Now, what do I want to talk about today? Well, it ties into a lot of these messages that I've received. It ties into people around me, loved ones, students, people that, you know, who really matter to me, and people whose well-being really matter to me, reaching out to me, sometimes in response to something that, you know, something that they discovered, or a feeling that they discovered through listening to my talks, or just sharing with me some good or bad experiences that they've had through their own career. And more often than not, those feelings, those experiences, those actions or reactions to their career and to their pursuits artistically are tied into their health. They're tied into their stress level. They're tied into their energy or their lack thereof, the fatigue, the flat out depression that they can feel from difficulties, from overstress, from pushing themselves too hard. And this to me matters a lot. This is a subject that I take and I handle with great care, not only with my students, but with myself too. And this is, if you followed me for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a very, very outspoken advocate for healthy, balanced lifestyles. I think that's hugely important, particularly coming from somebody now in his early 40s who has experienced how the human body functions, how the human mind functions, how to get the best out of it, and what might reap short-term rewards but long-term obstacles. And what I have found gave me the best productivity but health at the same time, where I didn't have to sacrifice the good stuff for the bad stuff, or vice versa, right? So that's what I want to share with you today. I want to shine a very bright light on where you should be. And I'm not doing so in a way to say this is the lifestyle you should live, because we're different. We all have different energy levels. We all have different support groups or lack of around us. We all have different ways of handling stress or going about fixing it or not fixing it. We're all made differently. But what I want to open your minds up today too, as far as working as professional artists, working very hard in school, the incredible load that you guys can endure going to school, the schedules that are just crazy sometimes. I know, I've got a 17-year-old daughter with a fever right now lying in bed, who's probably sick because she's been overdoing it at school a little bit too much. And at no fault of her own. It's just the demand and it's the schedule. And it's finding how to balance that and handle that properly, right? So what do I mean by this? Well, it's important for you, young or old, it doesn't matter what age you are, because I know people my age and older that suffer just as much. It's important for you to understand your own limitations, what your body's capable of and what it's not. And there are ways that your body tells you when you are pushing yourself too hard or when you're not. It would be ill-advised. It would be wrong of me to say stress is bad. Not all stress is made the same. Some stress is invigorating. It's exciting. It's, I need in my life a certain level of good stress to make me feel engaged, to get my adrenaline going, to get me excited about certain subjects. That's good stress. I like a little bit of pressure to feel like, okay, I've got to focus. I've got to refine my thoughts. I've got to get a little bit of laser sight today so I can really nail that demand spot on. That's good stress. But then where does that line get crossed? And furthermore, what is it doing to you, and how to recognize the signs and what to do about it? Your body, your emotions are a very good indicator of when you're pushing yourself too hard and when you can give yourself a little bit of an extra push. So what do I mean by this? Okay. Well, good feelings versus bad feelings. It might sound very primitive, but there's your clue. I have people reach out to me very often and say, I don't know if I'm pushing myself too hard or not. I don't know if my employer is pushing me too hard or not. Well, if you start to feel depressed, demotivated, embarrassed, humiliated, sad, overly frustrated, lost, confused, all of those are generally a very good indication that a bad thing is happening. Now, don't think this is me talking to you like you're a 2-year-old. I'm not. This is how I speak to myself. This is how I address this issue. Because our mind, our thoughts, can confuse us. Our thoughts can say, Adam, you're just being a wimp. Just toughen up. Come on, push yourself. Don't worry about it. This is the way the industry works. Just you gotta grow a thicker skin. But my gut, my feelings are telling me I'm not happy. My gut is telling me that I want to just quit. My gut is telling me that I feel like I want to cry. My gut is telling me that this is affecting my life outside of work. It's affecting my relationships. When I come home from work, when I pick up my kids at the bus stop, I'm short with them. I'm frustrated with them. I'm in a really pissy mood. I wake up in a bad mood. I go to sleep in a bad mood. Not just once, but every day, or more often than not. The greater percentage of the time, I'm a very impatient person. I'm an intolerable person. And I know it, but I can't help it. When you feel like your emotions are getting the better of you despite the fact you know better, if your partner is legitimately, not just badgering you, but if your partner or your friends or your loved ones are complaining about the fact that you're being very short and very rude with them, all the time, that they feel like they're walking on eggshells because they're afraid that you're going to snap at them, and this is consistent, that's an indication that you have issues you need to address, that you are in an environment that's not sustainable. And your thoughts to that might be, well, this is my job. This is what I do. I can't just up and leave. No, of course you can't just up and leave, but you should be aware where the damage is coming from. You should be aware of the fact that this is a reality. When you push it aside, you bottle it up, it still affects you. It still nags you. It still taps you on the forehead constantly. And it will affect and control the choices that you make in your life. It'll affect the way you treat people around you. It'll affect the way you feel on a day-to-day basis. So what this is to you is, number one, an indication that you need to be aware. Be mentally aware of the fact that this is a reality, which will allow you to be aware of when your way of treating other people is crossing a line with them. Because remember, sickness, stress is contagious, especially for the people around you. And enough of that, and you'll end up forcing that energy onto them as well. The second thing is, start looking for an alternative. Start looking for another job. You're employed, you've got a paycheck, it eats up most of your time, fine. But go on LinkedIn when you get home. Not at work, you don't want to get fired. But when you get home, go on LinkedIn, start doing some job searching. There's no stress because you don't have that fear of running out of cash. But start looking for something else. The whole reason why you do what you do is to better your life. The whole reason why you're going out of your way to make this money, to have these experiences, is to make life better. You have to put this into perspective. If you're stressed, if you're unhappy, if you're being abused and mistreated, the only benefit you might be getting from this is food, which is of course a necessity, but there's other ways of getting it. And you might very well be better off working as a cashier at a grocery store, or working at a telephone company doing customer service, than being abused by your employer, or just being in a general and abusive environment that demeans you, that wears you down, or working for a boss or an employer, an integral member of a studio that makes you feel like crap. I had just such a boss. It was a studio in Montreal, and in Old Montreal, beautiful, beautiful location right by the boardwalk, where it was an open studio concept. It was kind of a loft studio, very pretty, nice hardwood floors, smelled great. We had our free cappuccino machine that we could make our own coffees and have fresh squeezed orange juice. Great. And our boss would walk around the studio and publicly humiliate, demotivate, insult their employers, their employees. And there wasn't a day that passed that he wouldn't walk around and put somebody down publicly. Because it was an open concept. We could all hear what was going on. And he would walk around, lurch over somebody's desk, and just bash them verbally. And every day we had somebody, men, women, breaking into tears, throwing their keyboard and walking out of the room with red faces, just completely frustrated. He didn't give one flying shit about it. Didn't care. His whole point was, that's how he did business. That's what he felt his employees deserved. And I left that place. And I left with my head up high. And after well over a year of being told that I wasn't even qualified to be an entry-level colorist, let alone an artist, he reminded me of that on a daily basis. irony and fate had it that a week later, I got hired as a director 2 doors down. And when I crossed paths with him in the street, he couldn't even look me in the eye. But not everybody has the ability to do that. Not everybody has the ability to be put down day after day and keep their chin up. And let me tell you, I was on the brink so many times. And I did cry in front of everybody. And I did get red in the face and frustrated in front of everybody. He knew how to dig that knife in just deep enough to get that blood flowing. Maybe you're in an environment that just demands a workload that is all-consuming. I spoke about my old job on the Disney show. Wonderful, wonderful people. I cannot say there was a single person in that place that ever treated me wrong. If I could keep that job if I could judge that job simply on the basis of how I was treated, they got an A+. But the workload was never ending. It just piled up and piled up and piled up. And I felt emotionally and physically completely overwhelmed. And the policy was, this is life. This is the way the world works. If you want the job, get through that pile. And I wasn't eating, and I stopped sleeping, proper hours. I was having my dinner late at night. I've already spoken about this in the past, right? And eventually I reached my breaking point and realized, no, Adam, you're a big boy, you're a grown-up, you've been through this before, it's time to set a limit. Despite being treated wonderfully, despite having the kindest, most compassionate bosses, they were as powerless as I was. And if anything, I wish them a break. I wish them some peace of mind, so they can live a healthy life and actually reap the benefit of all this hard work and not have that hard work send them to the hospital eventually. But again, I needed to have had my health and my well-being and my happiness attacked. I've had to struggle. I've had to physically feel the experience of being pushed over the edge. But thankfully, in my life, I did have a wisdom shared with me early on in my life. I had a single mother, 3 kids, who was working for a company when I was really young. I must have been maybe less than 10 years old. Very young kid, who had a boss who was unforgiving, who had a boss who was unrelenting, who treated her like she was the one holding everything up because she was the most important member of the team. And if she couldn't do it, nobody could do it. And it was all sitting on her shoulders. His demand of her was out of this world. And she had kids that had soccer and hockey practice, and she had lunches and dinners to make, all on her own. And she eventually burned out. And a burnout is a physical, chemical thing that happens to your body. And I witnessed her burnout. I saw what it did to her. And I saw the struggle she went through to get out of it. And it took a long time. Remarkably quickly. My mother's a strong woman, but she pulled out of it. I saw it. I witnessed it. I saw my Rock of Gibraltar. I saw my cast iron mom break. It was scary for a kid, but I also witnessed her get through it. But most importantly, it gave me physical evidence of what happens to you when you push yourself over the brink. It also was the first time that I learned how the body works, emotionally and physically. The thing you need to understand about health, the thing you need to understand about your body, and this has to do, like I said, with your mind, and it has to do with your physical body as well. Imagine your mind being a muscle, like your bicep, like your arm muscles or your leg muscles, okay? Those muscles can handle an incredible amount of strain. You, with enough strength, with enough adrenaline, you can lift a car. Me and my friend Seb once lifted a small car, mind you, but we lifted a small car and, as a practical joke, rotated it perpendicular to the road. So it was our friend's car. So they would wake up the next day and wonder what the hell happened to their car, that it was parked sideways, right? And it was a good joke and it worked. But we did it. All of that weight sitting on our little muscles, very strong muscles, incredibly powerful spine that can support our entire body structure, and an incredible amount of weight. But it takes that one last little push. You can strain it, and then one little last push and it snaps. Your brain's the same way. Your organs are the same way. My doctor, I remember talking to my doctor because I smoked for 20 years. My lungs are fine, and thankfully, I didn't do irreparable damage to my lungs, but I remember talking to my doctor about it, and I said, my lungs are actually in quite good shape, all things considered. I exercise regularly. I don't have any breathing issues. Never did. But he said, the thing people don't understand about their lungs is that there's layers to it. And when you smoke, you're slowly burning through layer after layer after layer. And up until that last layer goes on it, your lungs can function almost perfectly. But then when that last layer goes, it all goes. And that's where the problem starts. And by then, there's no plan B. Well, plan B is having a respirator, right? Your brain's the same way. And that's what happened to my mother. She pushed the muscle. She pushed her brain, pushed it, going to school, bringing the kids to school, getting the lunches ready, kids with fevers and flu and chicken pox, and taking them to sports, and, living up with this amazing, and going back to school, mind you, and getting a degree in computer science, and all of these things she did. She did it all. She felt fine. And then one day it went. And what it taught me is, you need to learn to listen to your body. You need to learn to listen to the signs. And the thing is, your brain is controlled by your body. Your body is controlled by your brain. One of the things you learn from exercising is that every single muscle in your body is dependent on every other muscle in your body. We are an incredibly complex, intricate, interwoven system of muscles, and our endocrine system, our digestive system, our lymphoid system, our nervous system, all of these different things are all tied together to function. And when one goes, it has a domino effect on the rest of our body. When your stress level goes, when something breaks, if you burn out, that's your adrenaline system giving out on you. It can't handle the load and it shuts down. It's basically an emergency shutdown system. And when that happens, when your adrenals are attacked, then your endocrine system is attacked. And this is where thyroid problems come from. Your thyroid, a little silly little butterfly-shaped gland in your neck, controls every facet of your body. Your organs, your skin, your energy, your liver, your pancreas, your gallbladder, your kidneys. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you. I don't mean to scare you. I'm saying this to make you aware, to connect your mind to your body, to connect your body to your mind, and to respect it. Because I don't give a crap if you make a 12-figure salary. I don't care if you're the king of the world. Steve Jobs was the king of the world, wasn't he? And now he's gone. Right? Now, of course, this is something well out of his control. You can blame him for having a diet or a lifestyle that was too much. I'm sure he lived a pretty intensely stressful lifestyle. He didn't smoke. His diet was a little bit weird, but nature took its course and took from us a very important person, for better or for worse. I know there's a lot of back and forth talk about his personality, right? But that being aside, even the king of the world financially, the Mr. Apple, was in the end human, just like you and me. He even said it himself, right? In one of his very inspiring speeches, he said, realize that all of the greatest things in the world, every one of the greatest creations in this world were created by people who are no more remarkable than you and me. They're just as human. And he was, despite his wealth and his fame, he died. I want you to start to really appreciate, love, and respect this incredibly complex, fascinating, brilliant thing called you. And I know this is trailing away from the subject of art, but without you, there is no art. And I want you to preserve yourself as well as you can so you can become the greatest artist you can ever be. And sadly, this competitive, high pace, high stakes world we live in is demanding of you a service. It's demanding your soul in exchange for some cash, for a little bit of security, for a while, until they decide to take that security away. Make sure when there's something that's stressing you out, you don't put it aside and say, I'll deal with it tomorrow. You deal with it as soon as you can. If it's an emergency, deal with the emergency, and after that, address it. Recognize that some stresses get you excited and happy and motivated and focused. Other stresses are depressing and weigh you down and make you bitter and make you unhappy. And that, to me, completely defeats the purpose of doing it in the first place. I'd rather be just scraping by and happy with a supportive partner in my life, with healthy food on the table and a healthy lifestyle, than to be the richest person in the world with a guillotine hanging over my neck waiting to fall down on my head. And I remember my mother telling me years ago, when she was working at this one company, she had the great pleasure of traveling to India because they needed an artist to, it was ironic because she was a computer scientist, but they needed her art skills for this particular project to draw the airport in India, in Mumbai. And so they weren't allowed to take pictures. It was illegal to take pictures of the airport for security reasons, of course, right? And she fell in love. It was, to her, the most transformative experience of her life, and she's never shut up about it since. And she told me something remarkable. She said, the thing that North Americans don't get about India is the fact that the culture divide is jarring. You get absolute poverty on the left side of the street, and you have the most lavish wealth on the right side of the street. There's no transition from one to the other. It's just an immediate, sudden clash of cultures. Fields and fields of cardboard boxes on one side and a gold-plated hotel on the other. But the thing she said was, and the thing that struck her, was how happy these poor kids were. Now, that's not to mean that, they're all happy and walking around with big smiles on their face. But these children lived. These children had happiness, true happiness. And she said the parents and the relationships between the parents and the kid, you could see how much they loved each other. How much these parents doted on their kids, and they just hugged and kissed, and there was just so much beauty in their relationships. Now, yes, of course, there's terrible suffering and starvation and abuse, and there's a dark side to this too, yes. But there's also a beautiful side to this world. And they had cardboard boxes for homes. They didn't have toilets or working plumbing. So understand that money's just a resource. There's no happiness associated to it. You can buy everything your heart ever wanted, and at the end of it, if your health isn't there, if your relationships aren't there, then it's not sustainable. And you're going to realize, just like PewDiePie expresses all the time, he's a millionaire, multimillionaire. He doesn't post content he doesn't need to because there's a demand for it. He does things because he enjoys his job, and he's managed to strike a healthy balance with it. He's learned from experience that the demand of the world around him, being the most famous YouTuber on the planet, is just a title. But he's still got to take care of himself. He's still got to take care of Marzia and his dog. Otherwise, there will be no PewDiePie in the next 5 years from now. He'll have burned out, and that'll be the end of him. And I'm sure you, just as much as myself, want to see him and want to watch his hilarious videos for as long as you can. And I, Adam, want to watch you produce masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece for the rest of your life. I want you to be the David Attenborough of artists, who's in his 90s and he's still making videos and he's still traveling the world. He didn't get to where he was by burning himself out. He's not where he is right now in his 90s, traveling and inspiring and sharing his experiences with you because he was a high roller for 90 years. No, he knew how to strike a balance. That's a man who takes care of himself. You need to base your choices in life based on that. Now, we all have different resources. We all have different circumstances around us. But we have the power to choose our own path in our own bodies. So when it comes to choosing the right career path, and furthermore, when it comes to recognizing whether you pushing yourself is making you a better artist, is giving you a competitive edge, and exciting you, and invigorating you, and connecting you to all of these wonderful other artists out there, and sharing your experiences and inspiring each other. And when you start to feel overwhelmed, exhausted, frustrated, angry, depressed, sad, or even flat out in pain physically, recognize that and stop. You need to take control over your mind and your body. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And if you've learned anything from my talks in the past, those companies that expect you to burn out and give everything, including your health, which is sometimes not repairable, you will be replaced with healthier, more capable talent. And after a short little bit of unemployment insurance, you'll be broke again. You'll be broke, and now you'll have medical bills. You'll be broke, And you might have a disease that carries you through the rest of your life, like hypothyroidism. So from this point forward, judge your path in life based on how your body and mind feels. It is not selfish of you to be happy. It's not selfish of you to be inspired. It's not selfish of you to expect a good relationship with your employer and your colleagues. And in the rest of your life, for that matter. It's to nobody's benefit, especially not yours, for you to ruin yourself in the pursuit of somebody else's benefit. It's not worth it. Now, does this mean, tell your kids to get lost and walk away from them because they're stressing you out and keeping you up at night? No. They're little. They need your patience and your support. Those people matter. Your loved ones, your friends. But a job is just a job. It's a tool to make money. That's all it is. If you can make a great relationship from it, if you can make great connections, sustainable long-term relationships with that, fantastic. And I still to this day love and support, and I'm there to offer my time and my energy to ex-colleagues of mine that were wonderful people. Anytime they call on me, I'm there for them. But for the rest of them, they're ancient history. Sometimes they didn't do much to change my life. Sometimes they were very damaging to me, and those people are long gone. So to you today, I wish you health, because the healthier your mind is, the more consistent sleep you get, the more of a healthy, balanced diet. Don't overdo that either. Enjoy a chocolate cookie once in a while. Once in a while. I see that. You go and empty out an entire sleeve of Oreo cookies. I know that's what you're going to do, right? But find balance in your life. Look for happiness. If the happiness isn't there, try to fix it. If it's unfixable, then wean yourself away from it gently. All right? So, thank you once again for joining me today. Hopefully I've opened your eyes to your own future and your health. I want to keep enjoying your artwork for as long as you can. So I want you to take good care of yourself. All right? And I love you all. And again, to all of you who've sent me those incredibly warm, incredibly personal and heartfelt emails and messages and comments, I love you so much for doing that. And you're in my thoughts too. All right? So happy painting and take care.